Well, right now it's time for a very serious sit-down and chat with our parenting expert, Nikki Bush, who joins us this morning to share advice on how to really protect your child in a fast-moving and very dangerous world.
Right, now when we think of protecting our children today, we instantly think of their physical safety, both offline and online. But according to our creative parenting expert, Nikki Bush, that's not the only thing we should be considering. She joins us this morning to talk about this very important topic about protecting our children. Online, offline, you know, there's those scenarios. But what are some of the things that we focus on as parents to, or should be focusing on to protect and make sure our children are okay?
Well, I think the things we traditionally look at that are the obvious things are things like road safety, fire safety, water safety, sun safety, you know, very sort of physical, interactive things where we can actually put up a barrier between our children and the world, or teach them skills where we can run between our children and the world, you know, catch them from running across the road, you know, that kind of thing. And when it comes to things like, you know, online behavior, we put parental control software in, but there are also other things that we call protective factors, traits that we need to develop within our children so that they can go on and lead a satisfying, successful and secure life within themselves. Because let's face it, you're not always going to be there with your children to help them to navigate the world. Ultimately, we let our children go. Ultimately, we send them out into the big wide world and they've got to be able to cope alone.
Especially in the kind of a hectic times we live in nowadays. So what are some of those protective factors that we need to try and instill in our children?
So the ones that we can influence, that we have a high degree of being able to influence. Things like, do they have a strong connection to family? Have they got a positive relationship with you, their parents? Do they have emotional skills? I mean, these are basics. Things like manners, things like being able to actually have a conversation. So bottom line is EQ, relationship skills and emotional intelligence. And then it's things like being part of a community. We can impact on that. So do we belong to, say, a religious faith? If we do, there's a whole community to support your child so they feel safe and secure. It might be that your child is part of a karate group, or goes to Scouts or Girl Guides, or, you know, is part of some group that gives them an instant form of community, so a network. And then some of the psychological things are, what are their stress management skills like? Do they have goals, things to hope for, things to work towards? So problem-solving skills is another thing. How do we deal with everyday life problems, life skills? So that just gives you a little snapshot of the kinds of things that we have the biggest ability to influence in our children.
And there's so many out there, Nikki, like you were talking, you know, as a parent, you're constantly on the lookout for potential dangers, you know, like you mentioned, the physical ones. But now those protective factors where you have to teach them, I think is such an important kind of topic to kind of address, because you know, as parents, is this something that do come naturally, or is this something that you really have to hone in and focus on?
I think that in days gone by, when parents spent a lot more time with their children, when people ate dinner together as a rule, it was easier to convey these things to your children in an everyday kind of a way. Today, we have to be a little bit more intentional, I think, because we spend less time with children. And that's why those family skills, the relationship skills, happen around a dinner table, for example. Make sure you eat together as often as possible. Use your time in the car when you're with your children, alone with your children, to have conversations with them, to get them to do basic problem solving along the way. Like, for example, they've lost their blazer. Okay, so when was the last time that you wore it? Okay, so now we know where it is. Who can we phone? And if they're old enough, get them to make the phone call by themselves.
Wow. All right, Nikki, thank you very, very much. We're going to continue with this conversation a little bit later on this morning, how to make sure to protect your kids properly.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Right, now earlier on this morning, we spoke about the need for parents to protect their children against risks and physical harm. Now, we are continuing that conversation right now with our parenting expert, Nikki Bush, this morning. Nikki, welcome back. Thank you once again. So, instilling those protective factors within our children, that is what we're talking about. That is what's so important. Education, what role does that play with regards to making sure that they're able to go and flourish out there without being kind of scared, timid, held back?
So school is an interesting one because what happens at school, of course, as parents, we have less ability to influence versus the protective factors we spoke about in the earlier segment. And a child who has a strong interest in school, who is an overall reasonable student, they don't have to be a top academic student, and a child who reads well develops better protective factors because I think there's a confidence factor there. There's an I can factor. I can overcome because I have skills. So school is an important one. And you know, it's really important for every child to have at least one friend at school. And this is not something that we have a direct influence necessarily on because we're not there to make it happen. So can your children develop friendships, friendship circles, and maintain friends? Very important. And with friendship comes feelings. So am I a master of my own emotions, my own feelings? How do I feel about things? Can I communicate how I feel? And what about how we make choices? We need to teach our children how to make the best possible choices for themselves. So choice-making ability. And what about a sense of humor? You know, if we take everything in life too seriously, life becomes jolly serious.
Yeah.
And we set ourselves up for hurt and being shamed and, you know, all those things. So helping your children to see the light side of life, the ability to see the light side of life is also a good protective factor.
And I mean, one way I guess you can do that is to live that out as an adult and have fun and make fun of yourself and then just enjoy your moments around.
You know, and we're not all perfect, that's the thing. And we're not going to interact with perfect people either. Everybody has a shadow side and a light side, and we've got to learn to get along with a lot of different kinds of people throughout life. And those kind of coping skills are good protective factors.
Yeah. So let's quickly, just to sum up those protective factors, what would your last words of advice be for parents out there so that they can really hone in and focus on that, making sure that they can see and recognize it?
So those protective factors really do revolve around the ones we can influence, around family and family relationships, around ability to cope with stress and problem solving and setting goals with your children, and giving your children a sense of community that will support them through their life's journey. And then, of course, we've mentioned some of the more difficult ones that we need to address with our children. And I think the message for parents is that we do this in everyday ways, in the car, around the dinner table. When you're with your children, you don't have to have a meeting with them. And you're probably not going to be tackling all of them at once. So pick a couple that you're working on at any given time. But it actually is a very natural process. It's not a board meeting where we have a strategy. We're actually just doing this via osmosis. And we're being human together with our children. So I think it's about celebrating the human bond and the human journey.
And then just to link onto that as well, the importance of the fact, let's say, actions speak louder than words from a parent's point of view and how to deal with these certain situations. If you are very, very stressed, don't go about freaking out and screaming around the house. I'm sure that's not the image you want to
No, you know, the whole thing is to help children get a handle on life so that they can go and create their own satisfying and successful lives in turn.
See now, that's why parents are superheroes, Nikki.
Oh,
that's why we are superheroes. That's it. That's our parenting chat this morning on your Feel Good Breakfast Show. You can let us know how you go about and you make sure that your children have those protective factors instilled from an early age.